The officer told me that.
And that's the basis of arrest?
Yes, please.
And then he's interference with duties. What is he interfering with? And what has he done wrong?
An officer in Harris County, Texas, stopped a driver for allegedly speeding and making an unsafe lane change. During the interaction, the driver exited his vehicle and asked, "Do I have to?" When ordered to return to his car, the officer escalated the situation, claiming interference with public duties. However, Judge David Flair threw out the case, questioning the lack of probable cause and the absence of real evidence of interference.
Morning, Mr. McLean. Sir, you're charged with interference with the duties of a public servant. You're facing up to 6 months in jail and or a $2,000 fine. We're going to do probable cause. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can or will be used against you. You have the right to have an attorney present. If you cannot afford one, one will be appointed to you.
Yes. An officer initiated a traffic stop in Harris County, Texas, after observing the defendant exceed a speed limit of 45 miles per hour and make unsafe lane changes. The defendant did not have his driver's license, but told the officer his name and date of birth. While the officer was running the defendant's name, he observed the defendant exit his vehicle, and the officer told the defendant to get back inside the vehicle. And the defendant responded, "Do I have to?" The officer exited the vehicle and attempted to detain the defendant. The defendant tensed up and locked his arms.
Everything is conclusory. What has he done wrong? What?
It was the initial lane changes, unsafe lane changes, and the exceeding the speed limit that prompted the stop. And then at that point, he was just
Stop. How exceeding speed limit? How fast was he going? I mean,
I spoke to the officer this morning, who told me that he was pacing the defendant at 54 miles per hour.
okay. In a what?
I'm sorry?
In a what? I mean, if it's on 610, he's fine, right? And then he's interference with duties. What is he interfering with? What did he do wrong?
I think it was after the stop was initiated, the officer was running the plates, the defendant stepped out of his vehicle. The officer told him to get back in the vehicle. The defendant said, "Do I have to?" The officer told me that.
And that's the basis of arrest?
Yes, please.
Don't. Are you losing?
No, sir.
Okay.
And Your Honor, furthermore, as he was attempting to detain him, he locked his arms and tensed up. So as he was attempting to detain him, following that incident of him telling him to get back in the vehicle. And it was
That's the basis for arrest.
It was just a temporary detention. He was just attempting to detain him while he was trying to
What's he
investigate.
doing wrong? What's he doing wrong?
65.
No, I don't think so. You can find no probable cause. No, it's just he gets out of the car, and then it just the virtue of fact him getting out in the car is interfering with the duties. Really? No. Just when you get into, just be careful out there, man. Life is hard as it is. When you get into, you got to be careful, man. People always have to get you. Be nice. It's not hard. Things will go well for you, Look, I got it. I'm with you, okay? Just hang tight with me for a second, okay?
The judge,
All right.
seeing no wrongdoing, threw out the case. Under Texas Penal Code Section 38.15, interference with public duties requires actual disruption of an officer's lawful actions. The judge noted, pointing out the officer's overreach. His dismissal not only upheld the Constitution, but also spotlighted how racial profiling can fuel baseless arrests. Just like this case, here's another incident. Judge Fleischer saved man from corrupt cop.
I see what you're saying, because he's charged with tampering, right?
A man was pulled over for having a paper license plate on his vehicle, which an officer claimed was fake due to missing security features. The officer charged him with tampering with a government record, a crime that carries up to 6 months in jail and a $2,000 fine. Under Texas Penal Code Section 37.10, a person commits tampering if they knowingly make a false entry in or alter a government record with intent for it to be accepted as genuine. However, the defendant explained that he received the plate from the person who sold him the truck, assuming it was legitimate. The officer, rather than investigating further, escalated the situation and turned a minor traffic stop into a felony-level accusation.
So, finance, PARMDOS 7794.
Oh, one more thing. Did you see if he has a license? He was driving
Your
it
Honor. Yes.
on Sarmiento?
Sarmiento, yes.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, this is his.
Good morning, Mr. Paredes. You were charged with tampering with the government record with intent to make it genuine? Is that right?
I'm sorry. Say it one more time, Judge. I missed what you said.
You're charged with tampering with the government record. You are facing up to 6 months in jail and or a $2,000 fine. We are going to do probable cause. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can or will be used against you. You have the right to have an attorney present. If you cannot afford one, one will be appointed to you, sir.
Yes, Judge. On January 16th, 2025, the officer observed the defendant's vehicle with a paper license plate on North Freeway, East Service Road. The officer ran the license plate, and the license plate came back with no record. The officer observed the license plate was a copy and did not have required security features. A traffic stop was initiated, and the officer made contact with the defendant, the driver of the vehicle. The defendant stated he received the license plate from the person who sold him the truck, that he receives a new license plate whenever he makes payments, and that he thought that was legal. The defendant stated he did not have insurance on the vehicle, and the officer ran the VIN and discovered the motor vehicle to be salvaged. The officer also found the vehicle had never been registered and had never had a state inspection. The defendant provided a dealer tag receipt for the license plate, listing him as a purchaser.
So he tried to purchase in good faith, Judge. He just, I don't see how there's any criminal intent.
But he's making payments and he gets a new license plate every time he gets a payment.
That's what the officer says he was saying.
Well, right, but I mean.
Right.
Marcos, I see what you're saying because he's charged with tampering, right? To tamper, you must. I know. Let's pull the cup.
Right.
Because I mean, do you have to make a willing?
But you're negligently or recklessly.
An alteration, so to speak. You know. Let's see.
Knowingly makes a false entry in the false alteration of a government record.
A person commits, if he knowingly makes a false entry in or false alteration of a government record, makes, presents, or uses any record, document, or thing with knowledge of its falsity with intent that it be taken as a genuine government record.
Your Honor,
I think that is what they're probably relying on in this case.
if I may, as the information alleges, it's subsection 6 where it possesses a governmental record with knowledge that it was obtained unlawfully. So,
Well, he doesn't know it was obtained unlawfully, even from.
Well, hold on. That's your burden, right?
yes, Judge, and in this case, we would show that reasonable certainty by his obtaining it every time he makes a new purchase and obtaining it from the person who obtained the vehicle rather than from the government. So it would be through that.
When I go buy a new car, though, they give me a tag. You know what I mean? So at some point, yes, you're supposed to get something like a license plate from, I guess, a state, from the state authority, right? They give you the license plate, but here.
They give you the paper plate, and you assume that they're going to do all the paperwork behind the scenes. They send it to the government, to the state agency. Then the state agency sends you the metal plates.
If this had been like maybe a month or two that he had purchased it, perhaps. But if we're talking that he's had this car for like a year, then I don't think that's reasonable. I don't think that's a reasonable argument to make.
As the hearing progressed, Judge Fleischer questioned whether the defendant had the necessary intent to commit tampering. Texas law requires the prosecution to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant possessed a government record with knowledge that it was obtained unlawfully. The defense pointed out that the man had been making payments on the vehicle and received new plates each time, believing the process was legitimate. The judge scrutinized the case, noting that if the defendant had purchased the vehicle recently and the paperwork was still being processed, there was no basis for a criminal charge. The officer failed to prove that the defendant knowingly falsified anything, exposing the weak foundation of the charge.
So,
And I don't know how long
this car purchase?
Let me see, Your Honor. So the only thing in regard to the status of the vehicles, the officer only found that it was a salvaged vehicle, and he lists a date of loss as May 29th, 2020. So I don't know if that's when the defendant obtained it, or that's just.
No, that's just when it was salvaged at that
Yeah, so
time.
that's
So
the
at that
only-
point, you can't even drive the car because it's salvaged, right?
Right, and that's
Salvage
the
title,
only
but
date that the officer provides. So, so with the information we
you have a
have,
copy of the tag?
let me see. So the buyer's tag lists an expiration date of February 5th, 2025, and lists the vehicle of the 2007 Chevrolet, and it doesn't
Is
list.
this, it should say like a date of purchase, right? Why don't we do this? Look,
So it says it expired February 5th, and this happened on January 16th, and I just asked him when he bought it. He said it was about a month and a half ago. And I said, how many?
let's do this. Show me. Let me give you more time. Let me just do a little bit more diligence. All right. We'll come back. But let me burn through all this because I didn't think it was going to take this much time. But we'll revisit.
Later that day.
Maybe we approach. So apparently I spoke with William about this case, and he, on the paper plate, which you have not seen, took a picture of the QR code, and it does pull up as though.
So what do you guys think?
Honestly, Judge, I don't know enough about motor vehicle registration to know what this QR code means, but I do know that when I did the QR code, it did pull up something.
And it did say the created timestamp was December 7th, 2024.
Oh, we can show you both. You like this one?
So wait. The paper plate has a QR code?
It has a QR code apparently on the corner, and when scanned, it gave the date of December 7th, 2024 as the creation.
This was end February
5th, which is the expiration.
So the
on-
issue is because
of knowledge.
did he have knowledge of its falsity?
Right.
Did he, or did he? Because it's a specific intent crime, right?
And after Googling what a paper plate does look like, it looks exactly like it's supposed to. It's a little wrinkled, but that doesn't really.
All right, so I'm going to find no probable cause then. All right, guys. All right.
Before making a final ruling, the judge examined a critical piece of evidence, the QR code on the paper plate. The timestamp on the code showed that the plate was created on December 7th, 2024, with an expiration date of February 5th, 2025, aligning with legal standards. This proved that the plate was not fabricated, but part of an actual vehicle sale process. The judge, unimpressed with the officer's failure to investigate properly, ruled no probable cause for the tampering charge. This case highlights how corrupt cops misuse the legal system, pushing baseless charges instead of conducting real investigations. With the right judge, their tactics collapse under scrutiny. Like and